Well, good evening, and thank you for choosing KREX 5 News at 10. I'm Logan Wilbur.
And I'm Shelby Bracho. Over the last several days, District 51 officials have been forced to cancel classes at 2 schools in Mesa County. An illness has been sweeping through the corridors of the buildings, affecting a large number of students and staff members.
That's right. Now, Rob Hagan spoke with a parent who's concerned about sending her kids to school, as well as a district official. He stands by live in studio with the latest. Rob.
Logan, Shelby, after our initial report at 5, we received a number of calls from parents concerned about sending their kids to school. I had a chance to speak with the mom of a Mesa View elementary student, and she shared her comments, concerns, and her simple solution. Hundreds of students have been affected by it, and now the fear of it is spreading too.
I don't want it to spread here and then I'm going to school and bringing it home. I'm disinfecting pretty much every day.
But what exactly is it?
Mesa County Public Health is tracking it, and they believe that it's, given the symptoms and the way it's spreading, probably norovirus.
While the school district searches for answers, parents are all asking the same question.
Do I send my kids to school right now? Do I not send my kids to school?
This question is tough for parents because of the consequences.
For me to get it, my kids to get it, we'd pass it obviously off to my husband, and that's not good. He doesn't need it. He's our income right now.
Now, this mother has a friendly suggestion for School District 51.
I think they need to close it all down. I understand there is 4 days left of school already, but let's prevent it from spreading.
But School District 51 is already hard at work to get kids back to their schoolwork.
We will do extra cleaning, so that means bringing custodians at night to do, wiping down every single surface you can think of that kids might be touching.
Being with Thanksgiving around the corner and all the illnesses that are going around is going to damper on having time with the family. Now, we will continue to follow this illness hitting students on the western slope and looking for answers until there is a solution. If you have a student or family member who wants to speak out regarding your concerns or experiences with this illness, send us a message on Facebook or email us at news@krextv.com. First on the Western Slope and live in the studio, I'm Rob Hagan with KREX 5 News. Logan?
Rob, thank you very much. Certainly a scary issue right there.
Absolutely.
Well, some bad news for the Western Slope. America's pastime could be a thing of the past for Grand Junction. The New York Times is reporting over 3 dozen minor league teams are in jeopardy of losing their ties to Major League Baseball.
That's right. This decision could impact as many as 42 teams, including our own Grand Junction Rockies. Ivan Fisher has more on what the Rockies leaving town could mean for the city and the community as a whole.
One of the first things people tell you to do when you land on the Western Slope is see a Grand Junction Rockies game.
It's just a part of the culture here. So again, it really would be disappointing to lose them and to lose that little bit of culture that they bring to living in Western Colorado.
It's not just an impact on culture that could happen if Grand Junction loses the Rockies. Losing Rockies games would directly impact the city and employees at Simplesio.
And those are the jobs that are created, the sales tax revenue that's generated.
And then there's the businesses around Simplesio that could feel this change if there's no immediate answer to draw people out in the summer.
Income that the businesses around there, people go out to eat and then they go to the stadium, or just the direct income from the stadium. So it's all bad. I mean, that's a revenue generator that's a good one and a fun one.
Nothing is definite. But after Major League owners vote 30-0 to support this plan, cities around the country might be stuck in the same situation as Grand Junction. One of the questions becomes, when JUCO wraps up, the summer starts, so that means there's no CMU, there's no high school sports. So what could fill that 4-month gap if the Rockies leave?
Summer's a slow time, and so that's why the Rockies is a strong economic driver in that slow time. So what else could fill that gap? And I don't know what the answer is.
First on the Western Slope, I'm Ivan Fisher for KREX 5 News.
After nearly a year after a Colorado woman went missing, a court finds the father of her child guilty of murder in a case which has drawn national attention over its shocking details.
And a jury deliberated for just 3.5 hours before convicting Patrick Frazee of beating his fiancée, Kelsey Barrett, to death while their 1-year-old daughter was in a nearby room. Marin Austin has more.
The jury found Patrick Frazee guilty of first-degree murder for killing his fiancée and then having his girlfriend help cover it up.
It's a sad day that all justice can do is hold Patrick Frazee accountable. We wish Kelsey were here today.
It took jurors less than a day to make their decision after hearing from 60 witnesses, all of them brought by prosecutors. Frazee's defense team called no one to the stand. Kelsey Barrett was last seen in public nearly a year ago. Her body has not been found. During the trial, the prosecution called Crystal Lee, an Idaho woman who was having an affair with Frazee, as its star witness. Lee testified that Frazee told her he beat Barrett to death with a baseball bat on Thanksgiving Day and asked Lee to help him clean up the mess at Barrett's townhome. Lee, a nurse, says a few days after the murder, she watched as Frazee burned a black tote bag that he told her contained Barrett's body and the bat. Lee also said Frazee and Barrett's baby daughter was in the home at the time of the killing.
She was 13 months old and unfortunately will never have a memory of her mother.
Defense attorneys questioned Lee's credibility, pointing out she lied before about not knowing Frazee and Barrett. In exchange for her testimony, Lee agreed to plead guilty to evidence tampering. Frazee has maintained his innocence. Prosecutors did not seek the death penalty. The judge sentenced Frazee to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Maren Austin, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Well, Colorado has the highest rate of teen vaping in the country, but the rest of the country is seeing vaping-related issues as well. The Center for Disease Control says more than 2,000 people have a lung disease or other health-related issues related to vaping or e-cigarettes.
And while lawmakers are looking for answers to curb this epidemic, the president is changing course on his suggested solution. President Donald Trump is reportedly backtracking on his decision to ban flavored vaping products. Less than 2 months ago, Trump proposed the ban as the number of injuries and deaths associated with vaping-related lung disease rose. Federal regulators had already signed off on Trump's plan, but the New York Times reports Trump's advisors warned him that following through on his proposal could hurt his campaign and cause job losses. Now, it's unclear what Trump will now do to address this crisis. Anti-tobacco groups say if the federal government doesn't take action, states will. A shooting outside a Walmart leaves 3 people dead Monday afternoon. Following a preliminary investigation, the fatal shooting is being called an isolated incident. Law enforcement says the shooter shot a man and woman, then turned the gun on himself. The Stevens County District Attorney says the 2 victims had been inside the Walmart Money Center, which offers check cashing, money orders, tax preparation, and other services, before they were killed. The shooter never went inside the Walmart store.
Meanwhile, at least 4 people are dead and 6 others injured in California after a football watch party turns deadly in the backyard of a Fresno home Sunday night. Police say there were about 35 people watching football at the home when a person walked up and started shooting. When officers arrived, they found 3 people dead at the scene, while a 4th person died at the hospital. Police say those killed were all males ages 25 to 30. 5 other people were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. 1 person was treated for a graze wound. At this moment, police do not have a suspect or a motive for the incident.
After several days of gun violence resulting in multiple people being killed across the country, the issues of gun reform is back in the headlines. While the issue is back in the news, it's not getting much traction in the Senate or the White House.
Our Washington correspondent Trevor Shirley has more.
Since Thursday, 9 people have died in mass shootings. 2 at a high school in Santa Clarita, California, 3 at a Duncan, Oklahoma Walmart, and 4 at a house party in Fresno, the home district of California Congressman Jim Costa.
Children were present at this meaningless act while they were watching a football game.
The debate over gun reform is on again in Washington.
There hasn't been as much movement from the White House or the Senate as we'd like to see.
Kyle Ann Hunter is with Brady, a gun control advocacy group.
The House passed gun reform legislation 6 months ago, but since then there's been no action in the Senate.
Republicans and Democrats have good and different ideas on how to deal with gun violence in America. Wouldn't it be refreshing if the president were to bring us together?
Despite initially supporting stronger background checks and red flag laws, the president has gone quiet. Senate Republicans worry reform efforts could jeopardize Second Amendment rights.
And some people they say that our times have changed. We should not have that right, and I don't agree with it.
That was Oklahoma Senator Jim Inhofe on November 7th. Senate Republicans say they need direction from the White House. They insist they won't vote on a bill the president won't sign. Still, gun reform supporters say voters, not politicians, may have the final word.
When the American people go to vote, they're going to remember their day-to-day lives, and they're going to say no more to this gun violence.
Reporting in Washington, I'm Trevor Shirley.
And also making national headlines, Congress will resume open testimony in its impeachment investigation into President Trump's dealing with Ukraine. The president himself may even provide testimony after an invitation from Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
However, it's the anticipated testimony this week which could provide make or break information for the impeachment investigation. A State Department official working at the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine will testify publicly in an impeachment hearing on Thursday. David Holmes will testify alongside President Trump's former Russia advisor, Fiona Hill. In a closed-door deposition that happened on Friday, Holmes testified that he overheard a phone call between European Union Ambassador Gordon Sondland and Trump on July 26th, the day after the infamous call between Mr. Trump and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Holmes says he heard Trump ask Sondland, so he's going to do the investigation, to which Sondland responded, he's going to do it, adding that Zelensky would do anything you ask him to. Sondland is expected to testify Wednesday morning. 9 witnesses total are expected to testify publicly this week.
Oh, wow. Well, lots going on. Well, we're going to shift gears. We got to get some good news in today. For those of you who didn't win a $50 gas card, we've got tonight's winner.
Congratulations to Renee Fox. You have won a $50 gas card. You have until the end of the newscast to claim your card by calling 242-5000. You have 2 weeks to pick up the card. And if you'd like your very own chance to win a $50 gas card, you can simply enter by heading to westernslopenow.com or go over to Ed Bozarth Mark Miller Chevrolet Buick. Congratulations, Renee.
Go get him, Renee. Well, we're giving away gas money. Meanwhile, the federal government is just days away from running out of money.
And still to come on KREX 5 News, Congress has a solution to prevent a possible shutdown, but no one is happy about it. Plus, your full forecast is up next.